Jersey's own Zach Gelb.
Or maybe it's Pennsylvania. Anyhow, it's one of the two, I'm pretty sure.
The Zach Gelb Show continues
On Fox Sports 920, The Jersey.
All right, welcome back in on this Friday. Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920, The Jersey, 609-919-9200. We all know the story right now about St. Anthony High School, and it's an unfortunate one because that high school in New Jersey has impacted many lives for many years, and unfortunately, in June, they're going to be closing their doors. And now joining us on the hotline is the Hall of Famer, the president and head coach of St. Anthony, and that's Bob Hurley Sr., who's kind enough to give us a few minutes. Coach, considering the circumstances, we do appreciate a few minutes, and how are you?
Good, Zach. How you doing? Yeah, it's been a difficult, 48 hours, but this is, we've had a good run, and it's just unfortunate for the kids in school that they don't get a chance to, to experience what the previous generation has.
You knew that this was coming, and I know that it wasn't unexpected, and you expected this moment to occur on Wednesday. When you had to walk to that podium and speak at that press conference, just what were you feeling before you had to deliver that tough speech?
Well, it was harder to talk to the faculty, and what'll be even harder is today at 3 o'clock I start talking to the families, and we're going to go from 3 to 6 with basketball kids. Probably about 40, and then we'll go back to the school at 6 and start talking to families. And it's funny how emotion, loss is something that there's grief, and initially it's overwhelming, and the time goes on, you start to separate yourself. But then you're always drawn back when you have to reflect on something, whether it's a phone call from a former player or even something like this where we start to talk and then you start to think about, the things that have been bouncing around your head. So it's anyone who's been involved with young people and you think you have a good recipe for helping them to be successful. And you have track record. Our track record, compares to any place. And then you're up against it because all the other little Catholic schools, whether it's St. Joseph's Camden or, countless schools since I started coaching up in the north and in New York City have closed because they couldn't make up the difference between the tuition and the expenses. And we were left with this decision to make, and we have had to make it for a long time. Do we increase the tuition and stay open, and stop serving kids that we serve, or do we just keep it where it is and just see how long we can do it? And that's where we reached. So when if you look at it pragmatically, it was a number we knew eventually. In trying to be advocates for the kids, we were charging what we were charging, which is only $6,100, and it was costing us $14,000, and it was just mission impossible.
Like you were saying, the toughest part is talking to the faculty because those have been people that you've been working with for many years, obviously, and now you're going to have to speak to the kids and the parents today. What do you say to the kids and the parents today, and also how do you try to help them in the next 3 months before June does hit?
Well, everything in life is relationships, and the relationship we have with the kids is they're around us all the time. I had a brief meeting the other day with 18 of the kids who just finished weight training. And I think 15 of the kids had gotten distinguished honors from the group that was sitting in front of me. So as I speak to Hudson Catholic yesterday, or I'm talking to families today about the different schools, we're going to try to do it geographically. We'll certainly talk to schools where I know the coaches and I know what the coaches feel about the relationship with the kids, and we'll try to take care of that. The ones we're most concerned about are the kids that are just in the school, who live in the inner city, and their decisions are going to be made by us, maybe a single parent, a grandmother, and they're not involved in an activity. They're just there because it's a safe place. They can get a quality education. It's affordable. And they will anonymously go on to college, as many of our kids do. For every, Kyle Anderson who plays with the Spurs, there are 15 other kids who are working part-time jobs that are heading off to college that are going to do very well because they were isolated in a little school and told that they can do whatever they want in life if they work hard.
And that's also why, and I know you fight this perception all the time, but you just hear it right there. People say, oh, St. Anthony, that's just that basketball school with the really good head coach that's a Hall of Famer. It goes more than that because education is the first and foremost most important thing at that institution.
Well, yes, we've had basketball teams, and there's a certain amount of pride that the school has in the little school that's been, had good teams for a long time. But, my son's graduated from school. Ben Gamble, who used to be my assistant coach, his daughters all graduated from school. He graduated from St. Anthony's. I was riding my bike on the day that we were going to the Archdiocese. I was in Liberty State Park, and one of my former players, Bob Vogt, who's a detective here in Jersey City, he and I were riding bikes together, and he's talking to me about his son, who's now a junior in high school and plays hockey at Hudson Catholic. So, you go through a process. When we're talking, we don't have to talk about, we only wish he had better options. He went to Seton Hall University and decided to get into law enforcement. We've been close since he was a kid. I coach his brother. It's the relationships here. I could put an army of people that would march out that would just want to tell people, you know nothing about what you're talking about. You know nothing about the kids that were there. We know because we didn't talk the talk. We walked the walk.
And I was talking to a former faculty member, someone that you know very well and I know very well, in Kevin Canessa, who used to do the PA for the games
Sure.
and was a teacher there. And he was telling me about Sister Allen, Fran Kachansky, and Ray Page. Just tell me a little bit more about the faculty that really did make the ultimate sacrifice to keep this school going along with yourself for so many years.
Well, Kevin was terrific, and he saw an opportunity a little bit closer to home to advance his career, and we miss him. But we were fortunate to have the Felicia nuns of St. Anthony's for a long time, and Sister Mary Allen, who was there from the late 70s until early 2000s, was absolutely phenomenal. Make sure kids took the right classes, getting them registered for SATs. Intercepting problems in their lives that we wouldn't necessarily get because everybody was comfortable talking to her. Ray Page, Fran retired last year, so Fran is now a part-time teacher at school. Ray Page was a Princeton honored teacher, along with another teacher from this year. So we have teachers that have been there since my sons in the late 80s that are there, and they're there making the salary that you can get in a Catholic school. They're not making the public school salary, but they like being in a place where it's old school. You can walk down the hallway and you can hear a pin drop in school. There are small classes. The kids, good or bad, are known by everybody in school. So if you do really well, everybody knows. If you get in trouble during lunch period, everybody knows because it's a tiny school.
Bob Hurley with us right now on the Zach Gelb Show. I know you considered to be a charter school at one point, and then you did not consider being independent of the Archdiocese. Can you just take me a little bit more through that decision and why that was made?
Well, we didn't want to lose the faith-based education. That was one factor. Second one, which is a very big one, is the school would have to close for a year as you would restructure and transition into charter. And the third one is there would be a lottery to get into school. So the kids that are already in our school, we couldn't even guarantee that we'd be able to get them into that charter school. And what would we do with them for that year we were transitioning? So when we looked at all and we said, we're better off just, going down in flames, trying to do it the way we've done it. And, our board of trustees, people are very intelligent, and every conversation about raising tuition, for next year, we were going to raise it $500, and we had to have long discussions about going to, $66.50 for tuition. Meanwhile, schools are charging, 3 times that. But the students going there come from entirely different circumstances than many of our kids, in the inner city.
Coach, this morning you heard Chris Christie implore the New York, New Jersey area about trying to get money to save the school and raise money. He talked to and really implored the commissioners of the 4 major sports leagues in America. Is there any chance that this thing could still get a miracle and be saved, or are you not even thinking about that?
No, I think those things are wonderful, but I think I think what we need to do right now is to move forward. I don't think we want to put the families and the kids back in a situation where we're again talking about, well, maybe we can do this. I think we need to just transition into where we are. don't know that, I can reinvent myself right now. I've been a president for the last 3 years because there was a need to have some leadership there and lend my name to fundraising and things like that, which I was happy to do. But, approaching age 70, I don't know that I want to try to figure out a way of turning it into a different place. We've closed. We have a lease with our parish. That lease now is going to be terminated. We will not have a place to run our high school. The property that the high school is on is very, very. It's going to be a part of a significant development down the road. So there's a lot of things that would just make this our kids merging into other schools, wherever they live. And I think that's what we just have to, that's what we just have to accept.
The last few years, what did you learn being put in that role of being president? We know you have an ample amount of experience and you never back down from a challenge, but what did you really learn about yourself the last few years in that new role?
Well, it reinforced that, the kids that I knew as the basketball coach for, 50 years were terrific kids, needed direction, needed people to tell them that they had the potential to do anything if they were ready to work hard. And the regular students are no different than my basketball players, which I found. The kid that comes in and sits with me at lunchtime when he's between breaks, he'll come in and we'll talk about things he's doing. Or the knucklehead will come in and wants to not go to a class, so he'll sit there for a few minutes and I'll ask him, "You on lunch now?" And he'll say no, and I'll be chasing him out. They're no different than the other guys. So you want for them the same things. It's just instead of me being conscious of my freshman JV varsity team, all of a sudden I became conscious about what a lot more kids are doing. And it was very rewarding, but, we can see that, we're at the end of the road.
Coach Bob Hurley with us right now, the Hall of Famer on the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. Coach, what's next for you professionally?
Well, I don't know. I think job opportunities at this point would have to be something close to home. So it's something here in Jersey City, probably grassroots basketball, maybe doing something here in the city with clinics. And we have, as I say every day, I was a probation officer, and I look at our town, and we have a lot of problems with juveniles right now and their involvement in gangs and acts of violence and sale of drugs. And I'd love to start something back with basketball with kids starting as young as 7 and getting them involved in stuff and having them play and maybe sending them away to camps during the summer so we can, broaden their horizons and do that and bring back the people that have been so successful here to talk to them and try to battle what's going on right now with the influence that the other element has with kids.
Coach, this process had to have been emotionally draining for you. We saw the emotion on Wednesday. I know the passion for you never will go away, and you always want to help the youth and continue to be a great role model and a teacher for you, because it could be easy for someone to just say, hey, you've been through a lot, why not just retire? Why does the passion not go away for Bob Hurley Sr.?
Well, I know I'm going to be 70, but I also know that I know the streets here. I know the community. I have countless friends in the school system and all the schools throughout the city. All the high school coaches are friends. I know what could be done here. And if I'm just organizing something and taking the talent that we have here to try to work with the potential talent, I don't know that I'd want to be just sitting in the house if I could do something that might be worth it. And, I've coached enough games. I don't know that I need to be on a bench to feel like I'm validating, the latter stages of my life, but I might really enjoy going into a gym and looking at a bunch of kids that might remind me of my sons when they were 7, 8, 9, or the other kids that I was, fortunate enough to coach when they were older. That might be a lot of fun. And I think, all things considered, that's probably would be the appropriate thing for me to do.
Coach, I got 2 more for you before we let you run, as we're talking to the legendary Bob Hurley Sr., who's kind enough to give us a few minutes right now on the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. Coach, you had an abundance of opportunities to leave St. Anthony when you compile a record like you did. Why did you never try to explore college coaching and go that route? Why did you stay at St. Anthony for all those years?
Well, I grew up here, and a simple way to describe, the way I grew up is grew up in the Greenville section of Jersey City. Got married and lived in the same house that my parents owned. We rented an apartment for my parents until we could buy a house. I flew on a plane for the first time at age 23 when I was when my wife and I were going on a honeymoon. So I think I reflect the way my kids at St. Anthony's were. I grew up in one neighborhood. Leaving the neighborhood to go up to Journal Square, maybe to go to the movies, that was about as big a move as I made until I was, late in college. So I really wasn't meant to be somewhere else. And if I only, and I say only with just because I perhaps don't have a good use of the English language right now, if I had remained a grammar school coach in my parish, St. Paul's, and I was still coaching there now, I would feel like I had done something, outside of raising my, family. I would have done a good thing. When I went to St. Anthony's and I just had that opportunity, I was fortunate enough to coach kids. And, there's no way or shape or form that I can't say to you, as great as an experience it was, they shaped me more than I shaped them. I learned so much about the human spirit and the potential. I had kids that defied the odds, that made me want to keep doing it, and that's why we were there for the longest time. All the guys that helped me, we always had the kids that were playing in college, going to college. We'd look at them and we'd just say, wow, isn't this terrific? We'd brag on them. They'd come home during the season. We'd have them talk to the kids about how much they love college, and we had planted the seeds for the next group of kids to do the same thing.
You've seen so many things coaching both on and off the court, more than anyone could imagine. But this season, how tough was it to coach this season knowing that, hey, this was probably going to be the last season of St. Anthony basketball?
Well, it was probably because the team was not a really talented team. We only had one returning kid from our previous team the year before, which was number one in the state and was undefeated, just a terrific team. 8 of those kids played in college this year. So because of all of those being so successful and away, all year long we just tried to be the best we could be. And we had a terrific year. We were 23-6. Our 6 losses, basically every game with 2 minutes left in the game was in doubt. So the kids played, they played as hard as they could. Coaches worked as hard as they could. The outcome was accepted. And we look back on it, and, success is not always defined by championship. We felt very good that we worked as hard as we did. And because of that, we really didn't have time to focus too much on what was going to happen with school. We just wanted to, have as successful a season as we could.
Well, Coach, just to see and hear how humble you are, it's admiring, and I do appreciate the time today, and you definitely deserve a standing ovation for the run that you had at St. Anthony. In my words, I really can't do justice for what you've done with that program and that school, and we wish you the best of luck from until the end of June when the school officially closes, and then best of luck to what you do next. We do appreciate a few minutes today.
Thanks so much, Zach. Good talking to you.